All right, as you, hello, hello? Nope. Do not seem to have mic.
Test. Do we have
Test, test.
sound? Test, test.
Test, test, test.
Christy, we don't have sound.
Yeah.
Could be the sound in the room. If there's somebody online who can actually hear me, can you put it in the chat that you can hear the volume?
Yeah, it's not the speaker. Oh, someone raised their hand online, suggests that they can indeed hear it. If you can hear us online, please use the Q&A function to say yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay,
We're good.
since we don't, oh, there it is. It's already off. Okay, we will get started. Thank you for your patience. I call this meeting of the South Liberty School Board to order. We will go first to the land acknowledgement, and I'll pass it over to Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. I invite folks to read the South Liberty School District Land Acknowledgement online. Rather than reading it aloud verbatim today, I'm just going to use this moment to reflect on why we share a land acknowledgement. We live on colonized land. We share this land with the people who have stewarded this land for uncountable generations. Their cultures have been and continue to be rich and diverse and varied. We acknowledge the Lower Skagit, Swinomish, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Suquamish peoples, the tribes affiliated with the Tulalip tribes. The people of the Snohomish and Lower Skagit tribes had particularly deep roots here on what we've come to call South Whidbey, formerly known as the island Chakolchi, before it was renamed by colonialist settlers. And so because we have so many rich tribal histories in this space, I just strongly encourage each and every one of us to be curious, to learn about that heritage and to learn about the present day pursuits and rich diversity of those cultures that are still among us. The Tulalip tribes have a great cultural center called Hebulb that you can explore over near Marysville. And if you'd like a bigger picture of Indigenous experiences in the United States, there are wonderful resources in libraries that I highly recommend exploring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on. Just as this is a business meeting, we will have one section for public comment. If those here or online would like to make comment to the board, they may do so. If you're online, please sign up with Ms. Macaro at the back. Or if you're in person, if you're online, please type your name and location into the Q&A function, and then we'll know that you want to say something, and we can call on you to type it up, and I'll read it. I will note just procedurally, something I'm trying to do is refer back to the experts when something comes up that is in one of our schools. I'm going to try to refer to the administrators who are so generous with their time as to be here at the back of the room and let the experts talk about what's actually going on. I know it's great that folks know that the board knows what's up, but I do want to get it straight from the expert's mouth. So that's just something I want to acknowledge that I'm going to be trying to do, and we'll move forward. Is there any objection to approving the agenda and minutes as presented? Hearing no objection, the minutes and agenda are approved. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as presented? Hearing no objections, the consent agenda is approved. This includes our instructional calendar for the next 3 school years. Thank you to our unions and administration for working that out. We will move straight on then to presentations. First of all, food service with Ms. Matthews. Dr. Moshe, do you want to introduce her or say something?
Yes, please. Thank you, Rachel. She's put together a very complete presentation for you, and she graciously agreed to come and present it to the board. And she has some students with her. So I will defer to Rachel at this point. Make sure the mic's on, and here we go.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you for giving me some time tonight. I do have two students, Tevin Murray and also Grant Lead, that would just like to say a couple words. So if they'll come on up, you can both come up if you want.
Probably want to introduce your other guests as well. I assume you will.
I
right?
will, yes.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. All right, Grant, you're up first because you're the closest.
Hi, I'm Grant, and I've been attending South Woodby for a couple years now. And something that I really started appreciating when I first came here was there was always a very friendly face at the cafeteria. The lunch ladies are very kind, very sweet. Whenever I went there, there would be a nice little of me, rather than just a building full of people.
I'm Tevin Murray. I'm a freshman. Some things I like about school lunches are saying hi to Patty and all of the lunch ladies every day. It's nice. I like the food options, even though I'm kind of picky with food. There's enough options that there's still almost always something there that I like to eat. And recently they've made some nice decor additions that make it look really nice and welcoming.
Thank you both for coming tonight. Also with us tonight is John Maupin, who's my boss at Chartwells, and then also Patty Dunnigan, who is our wonderful head cook at the high school. So can switch the slide. Thank you. So just a couple things to go over, pretty short agenda. What's important to you, some of our programs, and then at the end, we'll do a spreadsheet with results for those of you who love spreadsheets and tables and pie charts. Yes, I do too. Go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. All right. So what's important to you? So when I started at South Woodby, I think one of the things that was pointed out pretty quickly was the priority was the farm was one of the priorities. Your farm's so amazing, right? We get fresh produce and 2 days later we're serving it in our cafeteria. It's amazing. And it's fresh. There's bountiful. There's so much food that we're really just lucky to have it. Second thing we did was we really tried to shift our menu to be more inclusive of scratch cooking and also whole foods. So we've started doing that. I would say about 90%, if not more, of the menu is scratch cooking. We do very few heat and serve items at this point. And then finally, student voice. Student voice, I think in South Woodby is super important. We want to hear from the students. They're who I'm serving the food to, right? So we want to know what they like, what they don't like, what are they missing from the menu. So we've been able to meet, or I have been able to meet with the high schoolers at least twice, 2 different groups. And I'm hoping to set up more meetings with other classes soon. Next slide. Again, so school farm, we buy as much as we can. If they're growing it, we're going to try to buy it and put it on the menu. We're going to try new recipes if that's what it is. One example was beets. We had a lot of beets this year. It's not something that's traditionally, I don't think, served at school lunch, but we would chop them up and we'd put them in different stir fries. We made beet fries out of them one day. The students definitely liked their tater tots more, but they did give it a shot. And a lot of them actually appreciated the effort and liked the change or something new. So far, we bought 415 pounds of produce from the farm. The farm's currently sleeping, so we have to wait a little bit longer before we get some more produce from them. Next slide, please. The other thing we do a lot of is catering events. So it's something that maybe people don't know that the food service does, is that we actually cater other events for the school, different projects, meetings. The Harvest Feast was probably the most known one. So this year was a really popular one. We served 705 people. This is a really big number. And Patty especially made everything from scratch. Weeks worth of work, the turkey, the gravy, the stuffing, cranberry sauce, the mashed potatoes, the sweet mashed potatoes, everything was from scratch. Nothing came out of a box. They did it all from scratch and they served 700 and some people. So it was a really amazing accomplishment. The next thing we also did this year was the back to school welcome back staff meeting. So that's in the top right. Again, really focused on the farm. So we did a Greek inspired dish. You all maybe were there for the board. Anne was, yes. So got to try some new things. We also did breakfast. And then we do various projects throughout the year. We've done the barbecues at the end of the year for the high school and middle school, 5th, 6th grade camps as well. So we get to do a lot of that stuff as well. Next page. Thank you. Grants. Your community is super generous, and we've been really, really lucky to collaborate with them. So just kind of in the last few years since I've been here, we've been able to get farm supplies, which was a grant that I had filled out. The Vitamix was with the help of Principal Richards, a very generous donor, donated over $1,000 to get us a Vitamix, which was lovely. The Coolbot, we partnered with the OSPI was a grant that I filled out, and then in collaboration with the farm, they raised the rest of the money to put out the Coolbot refrigeration unit, which some of you may have seen by South Campus. It's dedicated only to farm produce. So instead of sharing a kitchen or a refrigeration unit, they have their very own. And it's really, really convenient for us to pick up what we need, have a scale, sign it out, be billed for it. And that's just an amazing accomplishment. The flat top and the induction stove were new also in the last year or so. That was with the help of Mr. Poolman and OSPI grants with that. And then finally, this fall, we did a smoothie pilot program. Chartwell's actually was the one who brought it to us. And then we partnered with General Mills and we tried some new smoothie options. They were really popular. They're now permanently on the menu every breakfast at the high school. And then we also do once a week, we do lunch smoothies as well. And in return, we got about $1,500 worth of equipment and product for that. So that was fantastic. Next slide. We have two programs that we feature through Chartwells. The first one's called Discovery Kitchen. And what it does is it integrates monthly themes into our menu. We just try new recipes, just a variety of new options, see if it's something that we want to bring back. So the examples up there are the beet fries, as you can see. We also did homemade granola. There's a jambalaya that we had tried out as well. Next slide. And with the Discovery Kitchen and the next program, which is called Mood Boost, which is coming up, I was able to partner with the PE teacher at the K4 campus, Mr. Stelling, and we did nutrition classes for all the K4 classes, over 2 weeks or so. And we got to meet with them, discuss various, I'm one slide off, I'm sorry. Backtrack. Sorry, Christy, go ahead and go forward. Thank you. That one. Stay there for a second. Thank you. So we had done various smoothies with kale or spinach from the garden added. We also tried 2 different hummuses, one with the rosemary from the garden and also one with garlic from the garden. And then they also did a trail mix they got to make themselves. And then the idea was kind of teaching smart snacking ideas, just how you can put together maybe different treats or snacks instead of having a candy bar or chips when you get home from school. Can you go back one? Sorry, thank you. Thanks. So also part of Discovery Kitchen was the months that we had already done. So we did Seed to Table was one of them. And that one had a cauliflower mac and cheese. We did a homemade cranberry and apple relish, which was for the Harvest Feast. And then a pizza casserole, which was pretty popular. Next slide. And one more, thank you. Mood Boost is the other concept that we incorporate into our menus. And with that, it is really trying to educate students that the food that they put in their bodies can help energize them, make them more alert, put them in a better mood, right? If you're not hungry, and that they have just different properties to make them feel different things and just do their personal best. So these are just some examples of what we've done so far. There's a blueberry parfait, there's a spinach and cranberry salad, there's a beef taco, and then also peppers, again, from the garden. Next page. And our new environment. So we had kind of updated and freshened up some of our cafeterias. So the first one here is the elementary school. We repainted, we hung a new signage, just kind of freshened up the look. Next one. And then the high school we just completed. We're waiting for a couple more signs, but again, we painted, we put a wood clad underneath the service window, and then we also hung bistro lights, just trying to make it more fun and inviting for the students. Next slide. And next slide. Our team is awesome. They work super hard to provide all the meals for everybody. They serve thousands of meals every week. And so it's nice to get little thank you notes from the kids, always kind of brightens their day. So we're lucky enough to get those. Next slide. And then we also have what's called a high five card. I try to fill those out at least once a month and just kind of, hey, thanks for coming in early. Thanks for getting that catering together. Thanks for just having a great attitude. Really, I could do one probably every day because they're so wonderful, but just some of those to kind of cheer each other on. Next slide. And the grass. Next slide. All right. So on the left, you've got a bar graph, and the bar graph is going to kind of show what our average daily participation is for this year. So the top green one is our current participation. The red is our goal, and those are derived from the pre-COVID years. And then the blue one was last year, obviously universal feeding and everything was free, so it would be a higher number. So for this year, we are above our goal. We're serving more kids than we had set out to do or we had thought we perhaps would do. And we're spot on for breakfast. We're exactly where we thought we'd be. The next little spreadsheet or grid to the side, I'm sorry, is the year-end projection, resources, local sales, reimbursement from the state, and of course our district support, and the expenses, the food, commodities, labor, all that balances out. Next slide. What's next? So coming up, we're still obviously about halfway through the year, but we've got a few more things to do, lots more to hopefully accomplish. First thing is I'd like to coordinate with the 5-6 campus and do more nutrition classes with them, maybe pairing with their culinary students. And then also the new signage at the high school, middle school to finish that off. State audits in May. It's our first one in 6 years. So we're looking forward to wowing them with all our accuracy and making sure we're in compliance with everything. And then student advisory meeting with the middle school. As I said, I've met with the high school twice, but I haven't had a chance to meet with the middle school. So I'd really like to get their student voice in here as well. And lastly, student choice. So what we'd like to do is put on an event, maybe springtime, where we're kind of facing off to entree dishes, maybe get some students involved where do you want this pasta or that pasta? And we're kind of using different recipes to which one do you like the best? And then that'll appear on the menu and they'll actually be able to have it. And then promote the Discovery Kitchen and Mood Boost. We served it from the line and there is a sign, but we really haven't done a great job, I don't think, of really making sure everybody knows about it or that it's coming tomorrow. So that's something I'd like to work on, is just getting the word out there that, hey, there's a new recipe, stop by and try it. Maybe doing more samples and things like that. Next slide. And that's it for me. Anybody have any questions?
Sorry, in a business meeting, it's just questions from the
I'll
board.
meet with you
Sorry about
after.
that. Yeah. I'm sure that Rachel will be happy to answer questions after. But no,
You're fine.
just want to keep making sure we're on the same page everywhere. So any board members have any questions?
Thanks for the presentation. When you interview the students so far, what are some of the themes you heard and feedback, both positive and constructive?
Sure. So a couple things. One of the things that really in meeting with them is a lot of them don't know the stipulations and rules and guidelines we have to follow. So some of it's a little bit informative of why can't we have Snicker bars? Well, why isn't there salt laid out? Why can't we just sprinkle salt everywhere? There's a reason we have sodium guidelines, we have sugar guidelines. So a lot of it is really educational of why we do what we do and we serve what we serve, and we can't add, barbecue sauce to everything. So that's kind of the biggest probably takeaway, is just educating. They just don't know. And why would you? I don't think I would have known either. Why would I have asked that question? The other thing is they love their pizza. I think that's always the favorite, is they like the pizza quite a bit. Other than that, it's been a lot of, hey, could we get tots instead of fries? We really want to see more burgers. That was something that they brought up in probably one of the first meetings. Was they asked, why can't we just do chicken burgers and burgers every day? You can. So we started doing that. So some things really simple and easy for us to do. But some of it was just like, I can't give you that because I'm not allowed to give you Skittles. So that was really, it was just educational. That, yeah, it was great to chat with them, and hopefully they'll spread the word also of why there are those stipulations.
So Rachel, I want to take the opportunity to say, with your boss present, that you do a fantastic job with
Oh,
this
thank you.
program. And I've been on the board, I think, coming up 5 or 6 years-ish now. And the progress that I've seen in the food program and just your ability to push the limits and to rethink and be creative and work within us is really innovative. And I really value that strength that you bring to the company, and recognize that that really comes from you. And I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Plus
Thanks
one
a
to
lot.
that.
Thank you.
I feel particularly appreciative of your embrace of the farm program. And I think a lot of folks trying to do cooking at scale would balk at the preparation that's involved with using fresh, sometimes irregular, wonderful, beautiful, creatively unique
Carrots.
produce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Carrots come to
Carrots.
mind.
Your carrots aren't machined, but you're working with them anyway. And I'm just really grateful because I think that that program combined with your food service and your culinary education, it all wraps together to teach kids life skills that are going to keep them healthy for generations to come if they can carry these lessons forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I will give credit to my team because you're right. Dumping baby carrots into a container is a whole lot easier than working with farm carrots. You have to, we have to scrub them, we have to peel them and chop them up, and it just takes more time, but they're so willing to do it, and they buy into the farm also, which is love.
I just want to thank you for the amount of work you've done over the past year, especially really focusing in on implementing student choice and working with students to discover things that they're interested in eating and things they want to fill their bodies with. I think it was difficult transitioning from COVID, where we had the opportunity to just go to the cafeteria, right, and not have to worry about how much do I have in my account. But I think it's really important to, now that we have to pay, right, the normal price, to really have that student choice. And actually in our board report, we mentioned the new decor in the high school, because just like walking down, it's
Good.
so much more comforting, seeing the nice lights and the paint.
And on top of that, I know my friends that eat the school lunches, they can always find something, at least one
Good.
thing that they will eat and they enjoy to eat, which
Wonderful.
is super important when it's what's fueling you for the rest of the day. So that's really nice to see.
Thank you. Awesome.
Everybody else said what I wanted to say. I also just wanted to note, seeing the difference between what we served last year and this year tells us that we should be talking up to our legislators a lot more, because that's a significant number of our students that could be getting good, healthy food here at school, rather than their families having to worry about getting them lunches, or them worrying about not having lunches or anything like that. So,
And every
that-
picture, I forgot to mention, every picture in there is Southwood. There's no stock pictures. Every single one of those is us.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I didn't take them out of Pinterest or on the internet. Those are all us. So awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I'm going to try to embarrass Rachel for a second. It was great hearing the appreciation you have for Rachel and her team. And I would like to point out or bring to your attention that Rachel had an opportunity to look at another district up where she lives. And she told me that she felt committed and that she was not done here yet. That her commitment to you is, I've got 19 directors that report to me, and her commitment to you is far and above a lot of where others were at. They would take the opportunity not to have to cross the ferry and drive a half hour plus to be closer to home. And she told me flat out, I don't think I'm done here yet, that I'm committed to this group and I want to stay here and complete what I started. Because she came in just before COVID, right? And so she got only 5 months or so before COVID. And then she rode the COVID trail for 2+ years. And now she's getting to do what she wanted to do 3 years ago. So I just want to make you aware of her commitment to you, what she values here in this district. And it's along with what you're trying to do. Thank you.
I just wanted to give a shout out to all the students who have shared their voices. And I know Rachel has listened and is really looking forward to hearing more of that. And thank you for the students who came tonight and shared with us. Appreciation, Grant and Tevin.
It is finals, but we did give them a token of the board's esteem for being here this evening. So they get to walk away with a gift from the board. So thank you to the students and to Rachel and her team, and Patty, for being here as late as you are, given that you have to all get up early. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will not feel bad if you want to leave. Okay. Yep. Next on our list of presentations is Mr. Hudson with National Conference Teacher Awards presentation.
So just as a bit of background before Mark gets started, SWIA and the district collaborate every year to provide opportunity for up to 2 teachers to go off to a national conference and to pay up to $1,500 per person to do that. So Mark won the award this year and went off to Philadelphia. So as part of that award, it's to come back and tell the board about the experience. So Mark.
All right. Well, thanks for the intro. That's exactly what I was going to talk about is I was awarded, I think there was a huge list of people that I stood out amongst many and I won that the grant to go to Philadelphia to the National Council of Social Studies, their annual council in Philadelphia. And they have one every year and next year it's in Memphis. So might be filling out another thing, but to go to Philadelphia in December is not always the best thing in the world, but the weather was awesome, as you guys will see as we went through there. And I sucked the marrow out of my experience there. So hopefully I can share a little bit of that with you. Next slide. Whenever you go to a conference or a football clinic, you always want to find something that you can come back and use the very next day. So I have a little experiment here. Well, it's a lesson technique that I got from one of the sessions that I went through. So if you will all look at this picture here, now I know it's a business meeting, so only you guys can speak, but what's the first thing that you observe when you see that photo? Here, legs, very good. You see legs.
Firearms.
See some guns, some firearms. Anything else that you observe?
Fantastic pants.
Watercolor, yes, yes, watercolor. So what would you infer from what do you see there? Now, usually if it was a freshman class, I'd be giving the definition of inference and things like that. I'm gonna assume that you know that. What do you see there? What do you infer?
I'm inferring somewhere around 1700s, 1600s.
What?
Probably 1700s because of the firearms.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody infers from this?
Well,
Okay.
I'm looking at that and the fringe on the jacket, inferring that that's
Excellent.
along Frontier.
Very good frontier. Nice. Very good inference. And the last thing is, what do you wonder? So a wonder statement here.
I wonder why one guy's wearing red pants.
Okay. Very good.
I want
Excellent. Very nice. Yeah.
I wonder what the rest of the painting looks like.
Very well, let's go there right now. Nice. Excellent. All right, so this is a watercolor from the Revolutionary period. It was actually drawn and colored in at the Siege of Yorktown by a French nationalist who had come to join the revolutionary movement. And he drew what he saw as 4 main characters of soldiers in the American Revolution. Obviously, for me, the thing that first just jumps out at me is the character in the far left. And for me, that was really striking. I had the chance to go to the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, and I spent not enough time there, but I spent a lot of time studying about this photo of this painting. And I did not know, and this is something I learned, that over 5,000 Black American colonists from the New England states fought in the Revolutionary War. And this is a drawing of a soldier from the 2nd Rhode Island, I believe is what it was. And it was a elite group of about 200 soldiers that were kind of like SEAL Team 6 kind of people. And they were very, very important in the siege and winning at the Battle of Yorktown. So anyway, that's something that I learned while I was there. And this is a technique that I was able to bring back from one of the sessions that I do with my classes. I use a lot of images in my classes and a lot of artwork. And so this is something that I'm able to do in my classes now. All right, next slide. A little bit more about the NCSS. This is actual proof that I was there. Okay. But this is the largest gathering of social studies teachers, professors, app builders and business people in social studies. And it was mind blowing. I was just absolutely taken aback by how huge this situation was. The sessions were out of the roof. You had an app on your phone and you had to go through, literally had to choose from hundreds of sessions each day. And so you'd have that and you'd go through there and get them all. They had trips planned out. They actually have where you could go on a morning run and run up the stairs of the Philadelphia Art Museum. And I think they actually played the Rocky theme while you're doing it. Yeah. But it was fabulous. And the setting where it was at was just, it was spectacular. Next slide. One of the sessions that I went to, and I'll talk about a couple of these on the right, it was by the American Bar Association. And for any of my students that have had me before, I spend a lot of time on Supreme Court cases, and we went deep into the Commerce Clause, and it was fabulous. And it was 2 hours well spent. And then I came back and I nerded out on my classes, and we talked about the Commerce Clause, and I don't know if they appreciate it, but no, I was able to go to a lot of different sessions there. The Hard History series was really good. It was a series of sessions that it went into a topic, and it said systemic racism. How do you teach that in today's classrooms? And they were fabulous. Anti-Semitism, social justice, environmental issues, systemic racism was a few of the ones that I went to, and they were great. Most of them turned into a panel by the people that were there, but they were fabulous. But a lot of the other ones that I went to were really good, and it was just a great conference. And so I'd love to share with you any more questions about some of the other sessions I went to. Next slide. It's not the only thing I was able to do. On the advice of a good friend of mine, I took the train down to Washington, D.C. and spent the day there. We got an early train out of Philadelphia, and we got a late train back, and the weather was ridiculous. It was perfect for walking around. It was about upper 50s and just bluebird day. And one of the last things I wanted to do is I said, I want to be at the Lincoln Memorial at sunset. And it was awesome. It was really good. But that's not the only thing I did while I was there. I contacted our Congressman, Rick Larsen, and I said, hey, I'm going to be in town, and I'd love a tour of the Capitol building, because you have to do that. So we showed up to do a tour of the Capitol building. And if you remember, this was one of the last sessions before the change of Congress. And so they were doing this massive hurry up and vote marathon. And so we were sitting there, and Congressman Larsen comes out of the Capitol building. We were sitting in front of his offices, and he's wearing a sweatsuit. And I'm like, hey, Congressman Larsen, we're here to tour the Capitol. And he goes, well, give me 20 minutes and I'll have you come into my office. So it wasn't scheduled, but we spent about 40 minutes in the office with Congressman Larsen. And he promised me this time that he would come and speak to my classes. We'll see if that happens. But we had a great time, and we were also there with an older couple, and that's a whole nother story. But a couple they were a little mid 80s who went on the Capitol tour with us. So the 35-minute tour took about 2.5 hours, but it changed the schedule for the rest of the day, but it was fabulous. It was an unexpected little side trip on that one. And it's Christmas time in Philadelphia, and the hotel that we stayed in was right downtown, really close to the old Capitol building there, I guess. And it had Christmas festival all over there, and it was all lit up and parades and stuff like that. So it was pretty fun. But probably the coolest thing, next slide, was in between the hotel that I stayed at and the conference building is a place called the Reading Market. Has anybody ever heard of that? Oh, it's ridiculous. Think of 3 times the size of our gymnasium, and it's an indoor food market. I will admit, the first day that I went to the conference, I did not make it past the Reading Market. I had these from the Dutch Breakfast Company, these apple dumplings in their home. Oh, God bless. It was so good. But Philly steak and cheese sandwiches are good, but the roast pork sandwiches are better. I'll just tell you that right now. And then, of course, you have to go to Dunkin' Donuts while you're there too. And I got maple long johns, just in case you're wondering. So it was a great conference. Again, I got to go to just about every museum I could find in Philadelphia it was walking distance from where we were at. And our time in Washington, DC really wanted me to take some students there as well. The last thing, just reflections and takeaways coming back from a huge social studies conference like this. I tried as much as I could to visit with other teachers from other districts throughout the country. And, what do you have for offerings in your classes? What do you do? And so some of those takeaways that I came back was, I came here in 2001 when our population was really, really going big. And so as my kids have gone through the school and I've been teaching, it has been noticing that our social studies skills have been shrinking. And those skills aren't tested by the state, right? And so because we don't have a social studies test, a lot of times history classes and social studies classes are overlooked. But the skills that we teach, reading comprehension, writing skills, technical writing skills, those are things that we teach in social studies. And I think we're really starting to miss that in our district. Some of the things like that the global perspective, that was another reflection that I took as I was going through a lot of those anti-Semitism classes and anti-Islamic classes, is that we're kind of losing in our district that global perspective. Every one of our history classes is kind of US centric, everything from American perspective. And it would be really great to kind of live up to our mission statement to be a global minded school district. And it would be fun to get back into that. And we can do that. Oh, okay, I have to stop here and tell a story. Notice how I spelled psychology. Does everybody see it? Okay, everybody sees it, right? Okay. I'm at a session and there's this guy, it's an iCivics session. So if you know iCivics, it's an awesome program. There was a guy speaking there and every time he talked, it was like, well, when I travel around the country and speak at these clinics, and when I do this, and I was at the University of Texas, and every time he talked about this, he would talk about his resume, and right there in the middle of his resume, it said principal of this high school, and it ended with ELE. And it just drove me crazy. And every time he was talking about how great of a speaker he was, I was just like staring at that. So I went up to him after the thing and I said, I don't want to be that guy, but you should change principal if you want credibility. Well, here we go. I misspelled psychology. Okay. I didn't do it on purpose. That's what I did. But here are some things that I think our district, we could offer. We could offer some college in the classroom. We could offer some AP options. We could offer some things like psychology and economics and government. It's things I think within our scope we could do. And I think it would enhance our students' experience at South Whidbey. So those are some of the reflections that I have coming back from a national conference like that. Any questions you guys have?
As someone with a history degree myself, you don't have to convince me on the value of history and civics and social studies. It's really what teaches students about the world around them, in my opinion. And so,
yeah. And it was really interesting just talking to other schools our size throughout the country. And it was just, we could do more here and it would be great. Now there's always, limitations on what we can do and what we can't, but that is one area that I've seen us reducing down with. And I think it's something we could do better on. Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of students that are really wanting more AP classes, especially in the history and government fields, like AP Psychology and AP Government. I know multiple students who have discussed wanting those classes in particular and really trying to push to find a way to take them, whether it be independently or getting a teacher to teach it, considering how small our school is, but offering classes that students really want to take, especially these classes, is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Katya said. I actually took economics as an online course last year, and I have to say, I enjoyed everything I learned, but it's really not the same as learning it in an in-class environment. So I would also vouch the need for more APs, specifically in the government realm. And also psychology has been a popular one I've heard about. A question I have for you, Mr. Hodson, is what learning technique or lesson are you most excited to implement in your classroom?
Well, I'd say probably the thing that I put on there with the American Bar Association. One of the reasons I went to that session, or a couple of those sessions, was it was really close to what I do currently now in my civics class. It's kind of more of a political science class, but don't tell anybody that. So it was really good to see techniques that I used kind of reinforced in that. And then it kind of gave me some new ideas on how to teach those things. And another session I went through was, it was how to run a discussion-based classes. And that was really good. Just instead of just your prompt questions and things like that, it was a really good way to get students engaged and talk about things where a lot of times high school students, we think they love to talk about stuff all the time, but usually when you get into things that are over their head, they're a little hesitant. And they gave some really good techniques on how to get kids engaged with just asking leading questions their own rather than for me. Yeah, it was good.
What are some of the things that, sorry, my voice. What are some of the things that you were able to carry from our school district and from your experience that you were able to share with some of your colleagues at the conference?
Well, want to make sure I don't step beyond what I can talk about here, but one of the things that I shared with a lot of other school districts is in 2001, when I first came here, we decided to split our world history into an Eastern and Western civ and go really deep into cultures of, well, my minor in college was religions of Southeast Asia, so I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. But go into the cultures of Asia and some of those Middle Eastern countries as well, and then have kind of a more focus on that there's more culture out there than just the Western culture. And so when I would share that with other schools, their minds were just blown. They were like, what a brilliant idea. A lot of high schools will take American history and teach like an early, a US history A and a US history B. My friend at Cedar Woolley had done that. And when I would talk to people about, well, in the state of Washington, our first 250 years is taught in 8th grade, where if a student fails that, there's no repercussions for that, where what we teach in the high school is Reconstruction on. We kind of miss a lot of that kind of basic fundamental history that we are seeing in our culture is extremely important to understand, and foundational issues like that. So that was a topic that came up, but I would have to say when I talked to people about how we used to do Eastern and Western Civ, they were like, never thought of that, how brilliant that was. And so that was one of the things that kind of came up a lot. So, yep.
No question, but I just want to thank you for not just sharing your time and your trip, but also this last slide here where you're pushing us to be better. I think as great as this program is, there's always room for improvement. So I appreciate hearing that directly from a teacher.
Oh, you bet. And I'm biased, but I do think we do a good job preparing our kids just to be functioning citizens, as well as heading on into university and college and further study too. Yeah.
Thank you. I particularly appreciate your reflections on how our curriculum matches our vision and mission, and how we can do better to make sure that we're really meeting the goals we set out for ourselves with our students. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
So it's now it's my opportunity to actually take a minute or two and share our deep appreciation for all the volunteer work that our collective school board and student members do on behalf of the district. There is a proclamation here that I will not read by the governor that declares that January is School Board Appreciation Month. But what I will do, two things. One is to call Val Brown and Sue Ann Brewer up because they will provide you with some appreciation. But before I do that, I want to take an opportunity, and Andrea actually referred to it a minute ago. I have a little gift for each board member that recognizes your public service that is suitable for framing. And I will hand them to each of you, but Andrea has a special award tonight that actually came from not only Washington, but WASDA, recognizing your 5 years of service. And we also have a South Whidbey Schools 5 years of service pin. So very special for Andrea tonight. And I'm going to pass that to her. And
Thank you. Half a decade, half a decade.
for Marnie Jackson for her service. Ann Johnson. Brooke Williford. Joe Greenherron. I do not have our student recognition plaques tonight, but I will get them to you. And I appreciate your service as well. And Sue Ann and Val, please come on up.
Kind of tough to follow Mark and Rachel and all the great stuff they're doing, but we were given the enjoyable task of finding books that matched our personalities. These books are going to be placed in our school libraries with a book plate in the front that says this library book honors the service of each of you. So we're going to tell you which ones we match to whom and why. Okay. There we go.
So Katya, we chose a book for you that we hoped would reflect your curious and traveling spirit. And this book is called The Incredibly Dead Pets of Rex Dexter. Say that 10 times in a row. But actually has a special gift, and that is that he starts to see animal ghosts, and they come to him to have him solve their murders. So because I know that you are such an interesting and curious person, I thought you might enjoy reading this and then having other students read this as well, and inspire them on a path of solving mysteries. Oh, I'm next to you. Oh, okay, well. So Audrey, a pinnacle of your high school career, we all witnessed, and obviously very proud of you and proud to say that you are part of South Whidbey. And in honor of that, we thought that we would like to present you with a book by our Vice President, The Truths We Hold. And Andrea, when we go to look for books, we always examine, your personalities and how we see you. And so it's a great conversation as we're going through the bookstore. And this book is called Braverly, and it is about a heroine who has to save the kingdom and her family and do everything possible to
save the world. So we see you as someone who blazes a trail for us here, and we appreciate all that you do in inspiring us.
Love that author. Okay. Yeah. So this is not a comment, Joe, on your age, but we don't know you very well. And what we do know is that you have a hobby farm, and we always get a lot of requests from our younger kids for books about big machines. And yeah, Marnie, I saw this title and knew it was the one to pick out for you, Marnie, our animal lover and taking in all the strays of the world. So this one. I had the good fortune to work with Anne recently on a project, and there was a small skit theater production here at the elementary. And what I found out about Anne is that she really encourages kids to find their voice and to speak up and be advocates. And so this story, Amara and the Bats, is all about a little girl who does all those things. And oh, yeah, Brooke is a self-proclaimed nerd. So what could be nerdier than First Cat in Space ate pizza, and graphic novels are like the most popular thing in the library. I also had the opportunity to work with Brooke, and though you probably know this, it bears repeating. Brooke was born to be a cashier. He rocked it at the Scholastic Book Fair. So, Brooke, thanks for all your help. And we didn't want Joe to feel left out. So we got, we were looking around and what came to mind, and it was this one. No. This is a joke. We know you have chickens. This is not really a book for you. We did get you a surprise though.
Just to add to the wardrobe of socks. Do you have them on little hangers? Oh, not this one today. Not this one.
Yeah, we just want to also give our deep appreciation to the board and the student board members who give all their time. Thank you.
Can I just say that I've been on the board for 5 years now. I now have a marker.
You have a pin.
I have a marker. And the last 2 years, the board appreciation has been the best. And I love this. And I love the excitement that I feel when I see you sitting there with your books. And it's no shade to the South Whitby coffee mugs, but this is so much better. And thank you for doing this. And thank you for the thought and the care that you put into it.
I just want to say quickly, we have had such a great influx of books into the libraries, and money's been spent, and the students have been reflecting that by reading like crazy all the new books. The teachers are very happy about that as well. So it's the last 2 years in several years have been great to have the kids able to come in and find books that they're looking for. And if not, we can get them for them. So it's fun to share that with you as well.
As always, our magnificent librarians. They never hesitate when I ask them to select books for all of you. So thank you for doing that.
I'm going to have to fight my daughter to read this one first. Yeah. We'll now go to public comments. Ms. Makara, do we have anyone in person? We have no one in person. I'm going to check Zoom to see if we have any folks who have noted their interest in speaking there. If you are following us online and would like to say something, please just put your name and location in the Q&A real quick. We'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to do that, just to let us know. Otherwise, we'll move on. It will probably be less than 1 or 2 minutes because dead air is terrifying.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Okay, I'm gonna come up and be like.
Okay, I'm not seeing any names popping up in Zoom, so we will assume that there are no public comments from there either and move on. We will go first. We'll move on to new business. We have several memorandums here. Our first one is Memorandum 2223-05, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 2110, Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program. I'll note that all of these are policies that we discussed at the last workshop. So it'll just be if we have any last minute changes.
I'll move to approve memorandum 22-23-05, approval of the encouraged update to South Whitby Policy 2110 Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program.
Luckily, we don't actually have to move or second. It's been a while since we've had a business meeting.
Great.
Because we're a small board, having it on the agenda and approving the agenda counts as a motion and a second.
There you go.
So is there any debate? I'd like to have advisory votes from our student members.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-05, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 2110, Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been approved. Memorandum 2223-06, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 2140, guidance and counseling, learning programs and supports. Is there any debate, questions, discussion? Okay, advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-06, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 2140, guidance and counseling, learning programs and support, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. That memorandum has also been approved. Memorandum 2223-07, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 2145, suicide prevention. Any debate or discussion? Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-07, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 2145, suicide prevention, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been approved. Memorandum 2223-08, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 3116, students in foster out-of-home care. Is there any debate or discussion? Advisory votes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-08, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 3116, students in foster out-of-home care, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been approved. Memorandum 2223-09, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 4218, language access. Any debate or discussion? I do love it when we have a workshop that we can debate and discuss this so we can rock right through these. Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-09, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 4218, language access, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-09 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-10, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 5001, hiring of retired school employees. Any debate or discussion? Just wanted to check in and see if you had a chance to talk to our unions on this.
I was able to confer with SWIA and they have no reservations at this time.
Excellent. As you said in our workshop, we're sure that they weren't going to, but I just wanted to make sure we're reaching out to them. Thank you. Any other debate or discussion on this one? Advisory votes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-10, approval of the essential update to South Louis School District Policy 5001, hiring of retired school employees, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-10 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-11, approval of the encouraged update to South Whidbey School District Policy 5610, substitute employment. Any debate or discussion?
I conferred on this one as well, and there's no concern.
Thank you very much. Advisory votes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-11, approval of the encouraged update to South Whidbey School District Policy 5610, substitute employment, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been approved. Only a few more here. Memorandum 2223-12, approval of the essential update to South Whidbey School District Policy 6112, rental or lease of district real property. Any discussion or debate? Okay, can we have advisory votes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-12, approval of the essential update to South Whidbey School District Policy 6112, rental or lease of district real property, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been passed. Memorandum 2223-13, approval of the essential update to South Whidbey School District Policy 6700, nutrition, health, and physical education. Is there any debate or discussion? Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-13, approval of the essential update to South Whidbey School District Policy 6700, nutrition, health, and physical education, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has passed. Memorandum 2223-14, approval of resolution 668, designating certain expenditures for potential reimbursement from bonds or other obligations that may be authorized and issued by the district in the future. Dr. Moshe, would you please?
Yes, thank you. So as you know from the bond presentations that you have received, there are certain soft costs that the district can reimburse itself for should the bond be approved, such as the architects and engineers' work, the cost of the vote, other soft costs that are incurred prior to the bond, should it be approved by the board and then subsequently approved by the voters. If those two things don't happen, we don't get reimbursed, obviously, but we must have the board's approval within 60 days of any of those expenses in order for them to be approved. So we're looking to have you do this in the event that things pass and move forward.
Any questions from the board or?
So just to be clear, this is approval for the future expenditures should the bond pass.
No, this is approval for expenditures that we have made in anticipation of the bond. For example, we've been working with architects and engineers. We're going to have to pay the county to go forward with the vote. And those things will be expenses we incur actually prior to any potential approval. We only get reimbursed for those expenses from the bond should the bond pass.
Gotcha. Thanks. And if the bond doesn't pass or the board doesn't vote to put the bond forward to voters, what happens to those expenses?
They are expenses we've already incurred, so they come out of the general fund or the capital fund.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
So just to be absolutely clear, my understanding is what we're voting on is the resolution to request that those be reimbursed under the circumstance that the bond passes.
That's correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-14, approval of resolution 668, designating certain expenditures for potential reimbursement from bonds or other obligations that may be authorized and issued by the district in the future. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The resolution 668 has been approved. Our last item of new business for this evening, memorandum 2223-15, approval of the board regionalization letter. This is the letter that we've been discussing for several months now, just sharing our concerns with the legislature. Any other comments, discussion on this?
I would maybe just like to add a little context around what's happened since we last discussed this during a meeting. We decided that 2 board members could go work a little bit with our draft because 2 board members can connect offline without being in the context of a public meeting. And so Director Greenherron and I did work with this asynchronously online over the last several weeks. And we brought that draft back to Dr. Moshe and asked that it be added to tonight's agenda so that the full board could reconvene and look at this revised version.
Also want to thank Christy for her input. Some of the improvements from the original version are her hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to all 4 of you for putting in the hard work to clean this up, polish it up, and make it sing.
I would also add that as our district's legislative representative, I've been involved with conversations involving several districts on this topic, and our concerns are shared by many. And I think raising them to the awareness of our elected officials would be a service, not just to the students of this district, but also to students across Washington State who are going to be impacted by this decision.
All right. Sounds like that's our discussion. Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-15, approval of the board regionalization letter, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The board regionalization letter has been approved. Thank you very much.
So given that the board has approved it, I will make sure it is sent out with all the board members' names on it to the appropriate legislators via Christie tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our reports, which starts with our financial and enrollment report and some travel reimbursements and transportation. Mr. Pullman.
Okay, so I will start with the policy 6600, which is the transportation report. And it basically requires us to report if we transport any student within a mile of the school district building, because we don't receive funding from them from OSPI. And yes, we do. We have 2 students who live on Scriven Lane, which is just south of 525 on Max Walton. And I don't feel comfortable having them walk across the highway when we have a bus that drives right by their house. So we do pick up 2 students. So that's that report. Very simple. There's not a lot of kids close to the schools anymore. So our financial report will be as of December 31st. And our enrollment report is of January 1st or January 4th, I guess. It is the halfway mark through our reporting period for enrollment. It will be the end of our first semester. So it starts to give us a picture of where we think we're going with our enrollment for the year. So if we look at our January enrollment, and we're talking about basic education and ALE combined, we're at about 1,151 students, down 3 from last year, and that's given us an average about 1,151 for the year. And if you have questions, be sure and ask, and I'll be glad to stop. So trying to extrapolate, because I'm starting to work on budget, what our ending number will be for the end of the year. It's quite similar to the pattern that's kind of the 5-year trend, which is that dotted line. And using that as my guide, I'm thinking we're going to end up at about 1145 as our average for the year, which is substantially above our budgeted number. But that's what I expect. So a pattern different than we've seen the last couple of years, that because of COVID, it's been quite different. This is just a breakdown of where they are in the different buildings, the different grades, whether they are in the basic education classroom program or the ALE program. We have about 1,082 kids that attend classes on a daily basis, and another roughly 70 kids who do an ALE program, with about 5 of those being virtual through Spokane Virtual and the rest being on campus here doing. And this is just a breakdown by building, basically. And you can see where the kids are, where they've been for the last, well, 4 years basically, but also by monthly, are we growing or changing, or what's the different numbers and how many kids are in each building? So it gives you an idea, and then compared to budget. And you can see that we're, up substantially at K4, and it's really kind of the first grade is one of those that took a big leap, and we'll talk about that at some point when we start looking at budget and rollovers. We're a third of the way through our fiscal year. Our revenue at about 6.7 million is about 31.5% of the budget. That number will go up next month because we'll get more federal funds. There's been a change in the program that has slowed down some of the ability to draw those funds. Expenditures about 7.3 million. So we're still below that third.
Dan, what you're not saying is that OSPI has not figured out how to release the funds in their new system.
Okay, so I've claimed them. We just didn't get them.
They just don't know
It's
how
the
to give
bottom
them to
line.
you.
Yes, I'm trying to be polite. So basically, if we look at our revenue, you'll see it's a very similar pattern for the last 3 years. It really hasn't changed, but you can see that our expenditures have changed over time. And we get into the budget process, we're going to talk more about this and what that means for us as a district, but you can see that each year those expenditures continue to grow. Quick breakdown of where our revenue comes from. So our local dollars, property taxes, and local revenue by school. Pointing out that the local revenue that we're generating is starting to grow again. So we were at 300,000, took a big dip during the pandemic and the closure of everything, but those numbers are coming back up. A lot of those funds are the community center and the rent we're collecting from there. The one that is a concern though is the state funds. We're slightly above last year, but we're well below where we were prior to that. So those dollars keep going down. The federal appears to be behind last year, but it's really not. Again, it's that claiming payment process that we're running into with OSPI. If we look at it with our encumbrances, the things that we know we have to pay, we're at about 50% for our non-employee costs, MSOCs, and about 98% for payroll. So the contracts are all there. It's really the substitute costs that we don't know what they are until they actually occur, that are based on a timesheet as opposed to a contract. So I think we're fine in there. About 90% of our budget overall. So just a quick breakdown of how we spend our money. You can see that the left side is employee costs. That's the largest part of our budget. And as those numbers start to increase, the number of dollars available for supplies, services, travel decreases. So you see that reduction in those particular areas. Fund balance, we're currently at about 20%. We did increase fund balance during the years of COVID with some reduced expenses, federal dollars, all those things, but it is starting to drop, and we have planned to use about 1.3 million of that through this year. So we'll see that fund balance drop towards the end of the year, but it'll still be sufficient for our process for the next couple of years. Just a revenue and expenditure, about 6.7 million in revenue year to date, 7.26 in expenditures. So the fund balance has dropped, slightly because of that, but we anticipate that and it will continue through the year. Just another way of looking at it. This is assets and liabilities, and it gives you the breakdown by each of the funds. Capital projects funds, we currently have almost $2.2 million in there. We still have some expenditures from the FEMA project at the middle school. It's almost wrapped up. I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks, we'll have that one finalized. We have other projects that we're working on, capital projects, and this is also for technology. So there's costs involved in there that will continue. Debt service has about $85,000, which came from capital projects to make the payments and the interest on the electrical retrofits we did about 10 years ago. We are down to the last 2 years on that loan. ASB has almost $92,000. A transportation vehicle fund has about 150,000. I'm talking about transportation vehicle fund. We are looking at electric school buses. We had one out a couple of weeks ago. We're getting quotes from 2 different companies. Been doing research on the infrastructure for charging stations, getting pricing for that. So we'll probably bring you a proposal maybe next month, March the latest. I have to submit it by April to the federal government. So we're moving down that road and trying to define, which bus is best for us and the needs that we have based on how we're going to use that bus. And then private purpose trust fund, again, is just those funds that are dedicated for student use for scholarships. I also need to report on the IRS rate for mileage reimbursement. We do that every January and it is now 65.5 cents. So it's quite expensive. Even though the cost of gas and is starting to go down a little bit, this is continuing to go up. So that's the amount we would pay an employee or a board member if they were to use their own vehicle for district business. Any questions I can answer?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to student board members report.
Okay, as many of you know, the end of the semester is on Friday, so finals are kicking in tomorrow. A lot of projects are due. I have to go home and study for my pre-calc final, so I'm looking forward to that. I think a lot of students are excited to switch around their schedule and explore new classes, as well as interact with new people in their classes, which is a huge plus. In advisories last week, we discussed the importance of MLK Day, and we discussed the work of Martin Luther King Jr. In kind of an interactive way where we were asked questions. We talked about social justice issues in our community and how we could expand our work in our school community as well. And this work in advisory celebrating MLK will be continued, I believe, throughout the month. Discussion about the bond. At the high school, there has been a bit of discussion about the bond, specifically where the money would go. I think popular topics have been turf fields, as well as leaky roofs. So those I would say are the top two. Rachel, the cafeteria looks amazing. Again, the lights are really nice. And I'm just like, I'll walk by it. I'm like, wait, that's the cafeteria? Like it looks completely different. It's crazy just like what a little bit of decor can do.
There's also been a lot of club activity, which has been really nice. There's been probably a minimum of one bake sale a week, usually 2 or 3. So always good to have those $1 and $2 to go get something and support the clubs. Club specifics is Queer and Trans Club has been holding movie nights. They had one a week or 2 ago. Model UN is attending conferences. There's one coming up in February. The Interact Club has been doing lots of little projects, but a reoccurring one is they go help move books at Snow Isle libraries. I know in Freeland, so they take the books from the sheds and move them to the libraries and vice versa. And National Honor Society is doing a blood drive next month. So a lot of those students are helping out with that and just getting students and community members for the blood drive to donate to our community. And then there was the restorative justice training for 7th through 12th graders. So I know there was a handful of students that did that. And that was the same training that the teachers had at the beginning of the year and the board had last week. And Audrey and I were there last week after school. So that was really informative for us. And that was really nice to have students also be able to participate in that.
So 7-8 is wrapping up their semester as well and changing electives, which is something to look forward to. We talked to a few middle schoolers and they're kind of discussing their stress around tests, which I think a lot of high schoolers can agree with at this time. And then at the elementary school, we visited a little bit over a month ago and they discussed how they were prepping for an MLK assembly and how they were practicing what they're going to present and how they're going to interact with the audience, the student presenters. So that happened, I believe, was it the 11th of January? And it really focused on learning about racial injustice and the work of MLK.
Thank you very much for the window into the schools. Any comments or questions?
Thank you. I'm interested, is there a certain tone about the feedback that's being received around bond projects? Are there concerns? Are there celebrations? Can you
A lot of
characterize the feedback?
a lot of students are very excited to see what the bond will do and to have a new look at the school. And a lot of them have given us really good input, and they're really looking forward to sharing their input when it comes time to get down to specifics that students want. And I've talked to a lot of middle schoolers that are really looking forward to that, which is nice because they're the ones that are going to really see the construction happen. So that was really good to see.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would say overall students are excited. I have heard a few kind of confused remarks. They're like, do we have this money already? So I think that's something people are confused about, whether or not the bond has actually passed. Because I think like the discussion about where the money is going to go almost kind of gives the appearance that it's already passed. It's also important to make sure that if we're passing this, it's going to things we want to see improved. So
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Moshe.
Thank you. As Audrey said, it's the halfway mark, where Friday marks the 90th day of school, which means that we are really going to the other side of the school year. So all new classes come Monday at the high school, or Tuesday, actually. I did want to bring up to the board a suggestion that we change a meeting in June, specifically June 14th would become a business meeting as well as a workshop meeting. And that's because on the 28th, when that meeting, the business meeting is actually scheduled, the administrative team and I will be in a conference. So we won't be back in time. And I don't think you want us all on Zoom. So we can meet the obligations of the district by having a business meeting workshop in June, and then any business that carries over to July, we can do at the July business meeting. So if that's okay with the board, we can bring back we can post the schedule. It doesn't actually take board action as long as we give enough notice to the community.
I would be in support because I would also not be able to attend that meeting.
I also feel that I have a schedule conflict for that meeting. I'm 85% sure that that's the one. So thank you. I like the suggestion. And I hesitate to go forward without their administrative team in the room.
Okay, so we can make that schedule change. Just a couple reminders, at the end of February, we have several of us, including our student reps, have signed up for a Day on the Hill. So we go to Olympia on a Sunday, and then Monday morning meet with legislators after being trained on Sunday on how to do that effectively. I too wanted to bring up the 28 students we had trained. I'm going to be meeting with them with the two principals. We had 7th through 12th grade actually trained in restorative practices and culture of care, and their feedback was really helpful and positive, and they want to know how they can help us continue this work. So that was really positive for me to hear. Superintendent's advisory team, I meet with them monthly. It's a group of students from 4th through 8th grade, and I just got confirmation today that I have some high school students that will be joining in a couple of weeks. So that was good news. They are very well-informed students who really give me very interesting feedback. I did an abbreviated version of the bond presentation with them. They were actually very excited to see the pictures and did want to know how they could help. And I said to make sure their parents filled out the survey. And so if you look at the survey comments where it says, do you plan to vote? They say I'm only 11, things like that. So they definitely got in there and filled it out. So that was really good. And their topics are really relevant. We have an agenda set for the next meeting toward the end of February, and they asked very astute questions. They want more information on the bond. They want more information about the start and end times for school next year. They're concerned about the number of students on buses for next year. So they want a breakdown of what that will look like. And these are their questions. They asked a very interesting question that unfortunately I don't think we can do, which is, can we get double-decker buses in the event that a bus is too crowded, which wouldn't that be cool? But of course, the supervision on a double-decker bus would be, but they're thoughtful. And that's the point, is that they're thinking about and helping to problem solve. And their other concern, again, very valid, and something that we've been working on, is the vaping that goes on by students, whether it's in the back of the bus or in bathrooms or whatever. And we're following up on that. Again, I think students bring up their concerns very clearly, and I'm just proud of them for doing the work. So that is it for my update.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the board?
Please pass on my appreciation to these students for their great feedback to you.
Any
Plus
board?
one for double-decker buses.
I know a up and coming kindergartner who would be over the moon if he had a double decker bus.
They don't make them in School Bus Yellow, sorry to say. But on a serious note, we will actually be looking at the number of students on buses and how we can be sure to make sure that everyone has a seat. What students do forget is that buses right now can accommodate 76 or 7 passengers, and often there are 25 or 30 passengers. And so their idea of what crowded is versus what a really crowded bus may be, right? If there's 2 in a seat, to them, it's crowded because they haven't seen that. So again, being really careful to talk about the number of students, the number of seats, and we're working on that. So.
Thank you very much. Are there any board member comments or reports?
I wanted to give thanks to the K-4 building and Susie Richards, who I believe is on virtually tonight, and Val Brown for the amazing Martin Luther King Jr. assembly. I got to wear my Whitby Children's Theater hat and help some kiddos perform some scenes that helped the other kids learn a little bit about MLK. And that was amazing. But just the whole assembly was really beautiful. And there were community members there and parents there. And the kids were so attentive and so good to be in that gym that's, the acoustics are kind of wacky, and just to be with all of your peers all in the same space, which some of those kids haven't technically experienced before because of COVID. It was really, really beautiful to see. It was a great program, and it was really neat to see our kids be ready to present and ready to listen. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Anne. Okay, I think that's it.
One last thing. I just want to say thank you to our student board representatives who are here on a school night. Thank you. Not only a school night, a finals, studying for pre-calc finals school night. So thank you. I really appreciate that you extend yourselves to be here with us, and it's invaluable.
Yes, thank you. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.